Okay, and Cozy, what'd you do?
Okay, 5 times 9 is 45. Well, I'll cross multiply.
Sorry.
15x.
You got 45 here equals?
You divide by 15, 3. So.
Okay, next one up. Would anybody like to try it? Raya? Okay. Yep, and I'm okay if you leave it as that fraction. That actually is how I like it. So I'm going to leave it as x equals 72 over 7. Okay, now that we have that, we're going on to our third one. Who would like to do the third one? Lanaya, do you have your hand up? Would you like to do it? Okay, how do we do this one? Yep. So hold on, give me 1 second. Let me write out that step. 5x equals 84. X equals? You can write it as the decimal approximation, or you could write it as 84 over 5. If you're going to leave it in a fraction, I want to make sure you reduce it all the way. If not, I'm going to take off points. Okay, next one up. Who would like to do number 4? Mario?
5x.
Okay, we end up with 5x.
Equals 48, I think.
3 times 12.
Hold on. 36.
Yep, 5x equals 36. Next step.
I'm trying to help you out.
X equals 36 over 5.
36 over 5, or you could do a decimal approximation, your preference. If you're living in this form, make sure you can't reduce it any further. We can't. On number 5, we have to do cross multiplication again. Nico, was your hand up? Okay, how did you do number 5? So we end up with 5x equals 84. We're going to divide by 5. X equals? Okay, and then our next one, last one on this one. Okay, we end up with 3x equals 5 divided by 3. X equals 5 over 3. Okay, the next group is not totally different than what we've been doing. Yes, ma'am?
Would it, do you have a preference to, like, should it be in fractions or decimals? Like, do you care?
I prefer fractions as long as they're reduced, but I will not take off if you write down the decimal. When I did mine, I left all of mine in fraction form, but I didn't have a calculator, so. Okay, our next group is going to be the ratios, but these are word problem ratios. You will have a group of these on your test as well. So here we see it's boys to girl. When I start this out, I write it as boys to girls, so I know what my ratio is going to look like. Yes, and Cozy, you going to set it up?
Well, I can tell you how I know the answer, but I don't know if it's the same way that you want.
Okay, so how would you write, what's the ratio that corresponds to boys over girls?
5 to 2. I mean,
5. 5 over 3. And then we know how many girls are there?
27.
So the part that corresponds with girls is in the bottom, so we put 27. We put X up here. And now what are you going to do? Yep, we're going to cross multiply. So what did you get?
3x.
Equals?
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, 2. So 135.
135. Divide by 3. X equals? 45.
That's what I'm saying. I ain't doing that.
So if there are going to be 27 girls, there's going to be 45 boys. Our next one, we see lions to zebras. So again, I write out my lions to zebras. So this is like my code, so I know which order I'm putting them in. So remember, when you have the word 2, whatever's in front of the 2 goes in the numerator, whatever after the 2 goes in the denominator. So we see that we have 2 to 7. Here, if we know that we have 22 lions, how many zebras are we interested in? Well, we have 22 lions. We want to know how many zebras. I'm going to represent it by an X. I put a Z, but I want an X. Okay, now we're at that same spot. We're cross multiplying and solving. Once we do this, we see we end up with 7 times 22 equals 2x. We're going to divide by 2. 2 goes into 22 11 times. X times, or 11 times 7 is 77. It looks like a Z. Let me try it again. So we end up with 77 what? Zebras. Yep, nice job. And I should have written that up here as well. This is going to be 45 boys. I want you guys to write the label with it so I know what you're talking about. So in this, when you do these, I want you to tell me what you are referencing. What are you finding? So whatever I ask you to find, just tack that onto the end. Okay, so we're in a room here, and this is true for this exact room. We have desks and chairs. So chairs to desks. And that ratio is 1 to 1. If there is 28 chairs, how many desks do we have?
17.
So we're going to cross multiply. Be careful. We see we get 1 times x and 1 times 28. It gives me x equals 28. We're going to have 28 desks. Okay, do you guys have a question on any of these this far?
No.
So all of these you have to convert from word form into a proportion and then solve it. So you will have a section just like this on your test. Any questions this far? Yep, Bree?
8.
So for number 8?
Why did you switch it?
What did I switch?
2 and 7. You put 7.
So here, right here,
Oh, so you cross.
I just cross multiplied, yeah. 2 times x, 7 times 22. I took a 2 out, so I ended up with 7 times 11. Okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to clear this slide so we can go on to our next group. You need another second? Okay, so our next one, we did chairs to desks, so I could have actually gone further, but we're on number 10. We see on number 10, it's the average teacher salary. So teacher salary over the administrator's salary. And we see that that's going to be a ratio of 5 to 8. But then the next portion says if the average salary of a Belleville district teacher is going to be $66,009, what is the average does the administrator make? So we know that teachers average out at 666,009. We're going to find what an administrator makes. X. Oh, I didn't realize that's what you meant. Okay, so over here, we're going to cross multiply. We see we end up with 5x equals 8 times 66009. 8 times that value, what do we get? Okay, so did you solve the whole thing? Is that what you good ladies did? Or did you come up with just that?
528,072.
5.
How come you don't solve it?
Say it one more time.
Why you don't solve it no more?
No, that's wrong. It's 520,000.
Well, I'm finna pass out.
We're going to divide by 5. When we divide by 5, I get x equals, what's my amount?
I got 105,614.
And I think it was 40 cents. Is that right? Yeah. So that's the average salary.
Is that true?
I didn't make these. Somebody at West did.
Oh,
They did
that's
some
what
Oh, yeah, this gotta be wrong.
Average salary.
You could have paid 40,000 more.
Okay, so our next was the ratio of boys to girls. So boys to girls equals 5 to 3. So I created my ratio. I knew it was boys to girls. I created that, put 5 to 3. Our next part is to see that we have 32 people all together. So do I have them all together in my fraction? I don't, right? So I have to create that all togetherness. So all together would be boys and girls. So if I'm interested in finding the total number of boys, so we have our total number of boys over our total, which would be boys plus girls. We know that the total number of boys, the ratio would be 5. The ratio had the total of 8. 5 plus 3. So the total in the ratio is 8. The number in the ratio that represents the boys is that 5. Now that we have that, we can create how many boys we have. 32. You want to take a second? We can talk about it.
How we gonna learn something else on the review?
It's the same thing.
We now have 32 times 5 divided by 8. How many times does 8 go into 32?
5.
4. So I now have 4 times 5. X equals 20. What does this 20 represent?
How many boys?
20 boys. So we have 20 boys?
32 girls.
Nope, total 32. So 32 minus 20 is
12 girls.
12 girls.
Hey.
See? we see now we have the ratio of students, our teachers, to students at West is 2 to 47. Once again, they tell you that the total number of teachers and students is 2,303. So that again tells us it's total. We want to know how many teachers, so teachers stay on top. Total goes on bottom. So we have teachers over total, which is going to be teachers plus students. We know that that is 2 over 47 plus 2, which is 49.
What's that?
What's the point of making these numbers so big?
Okay, now that I have this, I'm interested in the number of teachers over 2,303, which is our total. We cross multiply. I end up with 49 equals 2 times 303 is going to be 4,606. We're going to divide by 49. X equals, you got 94? Yep. 94 what? Teachers. So in that school, there's 94 teachers. So right now we're talking about people to cars on the street. So people to cars. We know that that's going to be 5 people to 3 cars. If there are 64 total people and cars. So now we're interested in finding the people. People stays on top. Total goes on bottom. How many in our ratio do we have of people? So people itself is just the 5, but the total is what you just told me?
Oh my God.
8. Which we equal to, we're trying to find the number of people, x over 64.
5 times 64.
Yep, 5 times 64. Which equals 8 times x. Divide by 8, divide by 8. What'd you get? X equals 40, what? People. Okay. So over here, we're going to write out our ratio. So if we know that these two shapes are similar, we want to write out, and we're looking for our scale factor. So I always begin with writing out all of the proportion. So it says left to right. So I start, let's say, with 9. 9 corresponds to y. X corresponds to what?
Oh my God.
6 corresponds to? And z corresponds to? Yep. After that, we're looking for the scale factor. The scale factor is going to be the one, since we know it's similar, it has both numbers, no variables. So in this case, that's going to be 6 to 4. 6 to 4, we can reduce that. How does that reduce? Yep, 3 to 2. Nice job. Or you can write it as the fraction over 3 over 2. What'd you say, hon?
That's all they want.
Yes, all they want for that question. The next question, though, we want to solve for those variables. So you're going to take your scale factor, you're going to bring it down to each question. So I have 3 over 2 equals, and then I want to look for the one that has the variable. So this one I'm looking for x. The one that has the variable x is x over 5. I bring it down, set it equal to. So I have x over 5. 15 equals, divide by 2. X equals 7.5. Okay, Reggie, where'd we lose ya? Okay, so now we have to find the value of y. So we see we have the scale factor, again, of 3 over 2. We look up here, we see which one has a y in it. That's 9 over y. That y looks like a 4, so I'll try to make it look a little nicer. Okay, now we're going to cross multiply again. We end up with 3 times y equals 2 times 9. What's 2 times 9? 18. Divide by 3. Y equals, what'd you say again, Cozy? 6. Nice job. Okay, and then number 17, which is our last one on this page. We go over here and we see that we have 3 over 2, same scale factor, equals, the one that has a z in it is going to be the one that says z over 3. So z over 3. We're going to cross multiply. We end up with 2z equals 3 times 3, which is? Divide by 2. Oh, you can't see it. I'll move it over. Give me 1 second. 2z equals 9. Okay, be nice. 2. Okay, so once again, we see that they want us to do it from left to right. It tells you right here. The problem tomorrow on your test is also going to be like that. We're going to make those corresponding side ratios. So we see that we have 5 over x equals 7 over 3, which equals what? Nice job. So then we go down to our scale factor. To find our scale factor, since it already tells us they are similar, we see that the scale factor is going to be the one that has both numbers. So the one that has both numbers is going to be 7 over 3. So we see here our scale factor is 7/3. Now we want to find x and y. The way we do this is we take our scale factor, we bring it down, and we set it equal to the fraction or the ratio that has to deal with that variable. So here, that one would be 5 over x. So we have 5 over x. 15 equals 7x. That's by cross multiplication. Divide by 7. So I'm going to leave it as x equals 15 over 7. You can use a decimal approximation. I don't have a calculator to do that at this moment. 2.1. Which equals 2.1.
So can we leave it as improper?
As long as it's in the fully reduced form, you sure can. Okay, our next one, we are looking for y. So for y, we have 7/3. So we again start with 7/3 equals, that's my scale factor, y over 6. Cross multiply, 7 times 6.
42.
We end up with 42 equals 3y. Divide by 3. Y equals 14. Nice job. Some of you are already done. That's fine. So give me a second. I'll catch up to you. So we're going to write those ratios out to begin with. We end up with 8 over 3 equals, hold on, give me 1 second. I'll go with you. 5 over x equals, say it one more time. Y over 4. 6 over z. A over 5. So again, they're just making sure those corresponding sides.
That's a Y.
It is, and I was trying to make it look nicer, but it didn't go. Here we go. Let's do. Here we go. Okay, now we want to find our scale factor. Remember, the scale factor is the one that has both numbers, no variables. So we see exactly what Nkosi says, 8 over 3 or 8 to 3 written this way. Either one is accepted. After that, we're now going to create these ratios. So we have our ratios, now we're going to create the proportion. So to create these proportions, I'm going to write them all out before I solve. So we know they're all related to our scale factor of 8 over 3 equals, the one that has x is 5. Okay, my next one's 8 over 3 equals. Awesome. And then we have 8 over 3 equals. Nice job. And last but not least. Okay, now that we have all those, we're just going to perform those cross multiplications. Hold on. I'm not that fast. Okay, 8x equals 15. Divide by 8. X equals 15 over 8. Okay, over here, what did you get? 3y equals 32. Divide by 3. Y equals 32 over 3. Last one over here, we have 8.
Z equals 18.
18. Divide by 8. Z equals. So this is the one where you got to make sure you reduce it. So since they're both even, becomes 9 over 4. Take a 2 out of both. Oh. Okay, our last one here. 50. Oh, nope.
40.
Thank you. 40 equals.
3A.
40 equals 3a. A equals 40 over. A equals 40 over 3.
Did your
Okay.
page cut off?
Sure did, but I had to move it over. Now we are on to similarity.
Okay, this is the one I need help with.
So we have learned several different things. Our first one we learned was A, and then we learned side, 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 angle, side. And then we did the ratios of the sides. And now we have to decide which one of these we can use. We're given 2 angles. So the only one that only involves 2 angles is angle, angle. So we want to show that 2 angles are congruent. I am going to sneeze. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we want to see if we have congruent angles. My first angle, A. Hey guys, there's a lot of conversation in the background. As we're looking here for this angle. Nico, how did you find that angle?
180 minus 40.
We see we have 180. We're going to subtract those 2 angles. We see we have 46 plus 50. Okay, we end up with 46 plus 50 is 96. 180 minus 96.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
84.
84. So, knowing this, is there any 2 angles that are going to be congruent? We know that angle A is congruent to angle B. Is there any other ones that are congruent? Is E and F congruent? E is and F are in the same triangle, so we can't say it that way, but they both have different angle degrees.
So would it be in the other side?
So our goal is to try to match them between the two triangles.
Okay. So
we'll do the same thing to the other one?
We can, but we don't have to. If two angles aren't going to match up, we know this one is 85 and this one's the same in both. There's no way that this one's going to be the same as the other one. But if you want to double check, you can do that math. 180 minus 50 minus 85.
Hey,
Reggie, what'd you get?
no, I'm just asking,
Okay.
is that enough to show on the test?
This right here is enough to show you'd say not similar.
Oh, yeah.
But I need to see that you tried to figure out one angle.
okay. Well, I figured out.
Our first part, do we have any congruent angles in this picture?
No.
Angle J.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I. and
G.
H.
Okay, hold on, time out. Mario, which ones are congruent?
Angle I and H.
So we see that angle H is congruent to angle I, and we know this because they're both 38 degrees. We know something else. What else do we know?
J is the
The
vertical.
whole triangle comes out.
So we can see that there are vertical angles happening at the vertex of J. But remember, since there's two angles at the same vertex, we have to label it with all three letters. So we have angle. I'm going to start out with HJG is congruent to angle IJK.
How we know?
Ain't that the?
We know this because they're vertical angles. Now that we have that, we say by AA Sim Theorem, triangle, and now we're going to list them. Make sure the angles that are congruent add up or are listed in the same spot. So H we're going to start with. So HJG is similar to triangle. The other one that is congruent to H is I. J, what's left? Okay, nice job. So for this one, you need all of this for your full work.
28 is similar.
We see here we have angle L, just like Mario said, is congruent to angle Q because they both have those arcs that show that they're the same. Reggie, yes?
Angle O is congruent to angle N because they're both right angles.
Exactly right. So we see again that we have two angles that are congruent. So we can say once again by AA Sim Theorem that triangle, and then it doesn't matter the order you're starting with. So LOP is similar. Now we've got to match them up. L matches with Q. And what? M. Okay. Okay, so we need to figure out one of these angles. Let's find this measure. So we see we have 180 minus 75 plus 20. What does that give me?
95, actually.
Gives you 95?
Yeah, 95.
So we have 95 degrees. Over here, let's find the measure of this angle. 180 minus 75 plus 90 degrees. What do we get over here?
That's 165, 50, 15.
You got 15 here.
I mean, shit.
Was the other one supposed to be 85, Raya? Okay.
I didn't even say nothing, but I'm the same.
Angles? No, they're not similar. Okay, so Niqua, how did you set up the first one?
Oh, well, on my paper, this all I did. Like, I thought
Okay, so this goes back to that side splitter theorem. So this is a small triangle side over what's added to it to be the large triangle. So it's going to be A over 7 equals 3 over 11. So small side is going to be 3. What you add to it to make the large side is that 11. We're going to cross multiply. We end up with A, 11A equals 21 divided by 11. I left mine as A equals 21 over 11, but if you have a decimal approximation, you can do it. After that, we have our last one. Our last one here.
okay, Miss Jenkins.
Yes. Last one here, again, is that same side splitter theorem, which means that we are going to be able to, guys, I do not want you to continue talking like this. We have 5 over 6. So small side over what's added to it to make it the large triangle. equals, we have the small side, but we do not know what it is. We have the total length. So just like yesterday, we defined this length right here. The way we do that is we take our total length minus the part that is with the bottom, which is W, which equals 13 minus W equals over W. So the bottom's just W because that's all we're adding to it. The top, I did not hear your question. I'm sorry. So what is 13 times 12 or 6?
78.
78 minus 6W. We got to add 6W to both sides. We end up with 11W equals 78. Divide by 11. Divide by 11. W equals 78 over 11. Okay, so let's